Hello folks, I'm back. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. What was I gonna say? Yeah, 1 Corinthians 11. 1 Corinthians 11. We learn. We see something new. We adapt immediately. I actually wanted to read 1 Corinthians 11, but I'm going to end up reading the whole book. I'm telling you. And I wanted to move on anyway. So, what else is in this book? What else do we notice in this book? What else made me, just blew me away, made me change, made me take a good look at myself? What else made me feel that I should have read this book 20 years ago? Proverbs. I'm going to start from 1:5. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and the dark sayings. The fear of the Father is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Ain't that so? That was us. That was me. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. In one of the 10 commandments, honor thy mother and thy father, yes. And you hear the warnings from the prophets, even from Yahushua, about in the last days children disobeying parents. Come on, we all know the scriptures. We've all heard it, let's say. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood, let us lurk privily for the innocent, without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole. And those that go down into the pit, we shall find all precious substance. We shall find our houses with spoil. Cast in thou lot amongst us, let us all have one purse. My son, walk not in their way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. I'm sure many working class people, doesn't matter what colour you are, you can resonate with that. Many of our friends gone down that road, criminal path. A lot of us, we can say there's people, we have dead friends and acquaintances, we have friends and acquaintances in jail, sometimes even family members, and we have friends and sometimes even family members who are just taken with class A drugs. No way back. No way back. I'm reading the KJV, by the way, because any opportunity I get a chance to read the KJV where it's just straight to the point and it doesn't need the details. But if you're a beginner and you're starting early in this Bible, which is, you should know by now, this is what this channel is about. Helping the beginners, helping those who are still in their first years, helping those who are still trying to understand, helping those who haven't really built up that incentive, that need, that urge, that thirst for the word. showing you what is actually in this book, because a lot of people think they know what's in this book. But I would encourage you to go and read the Amplified. Read it slowly, read it carefully, because there's more explanation. But once you're used to reading your Bible, I love reading the old way. I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. And it's when I struggle to understand something, then I switch over and I read the Amplified. But sometimes in this Bible, like very few occasions, you can see extra added stuff and you think, well, is that really necessary? Is that really what that says? Just a few times, yeah. My son, walk not thou in the path, in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, to make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of thy bird, as in the sight of any bird. And they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. What does that remind me of? What does that remind me of? Yes, that's it. That reminds me of Exodus 20. I think it's Exodus 20:21. About laying in wait for somebody. If you lay in wait for somebody, that's what's called, is it called premeditated? Or in cold blood. Yeah, it's called in cold blood. When you plan to do something, when you plan to hurt somebody, when you plan to kill somebody, that's in cold blood. It's not in the heat of the moment. That's in thing. Let me get back on track, sorry. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates, in the city. She uttereth her word, saying, How long, ye simple ones, will ye love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Hosea 4:6. How long, ye simple ones, will you love simplicity? Scorners hate knowledge. Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you. I will make known my words unto you. Because I have called and ye refused. I have stretched out my hand and no man regarded. But ye have set at naught all my counsel and would none of my reproof. I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. You see, you feel that, when you know all the bad you've done and you didn't want to hear good counsel, you didn't want to hear that. You thought it was your right to live that way. You thought it was your right to just chase sex, drugs and rock and roll. And then when it all catches up with you, when you're full of addictions, when you got a bad mind, and you turn around and you look at your life and it's just like, and you're reading this, it just speaks right to you. Oh. I will also laugh at your calamity. I will mock when your fear cometh. So all that time, like when you've been messing around, fooling around, not caring what about other people and what you do, the effects of what you do on other people, when you finally have something, When you're finally settled, you're happy, you've got something, and then you see somebody coming for that, that's about to be snatched away from you. I will mock when your fear cometh. When your fear cometh as desolation, and your destruction cometh as a whirlwind, when distress and anguish cometh on you, then shall they call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Father. That's why for some of us it's taken so long to get here. So long. But we persisted. We persisted. We persisted. Hold on to that thought. Then they shall call upon me, but I will not answer. They shall seek me early, but they shall not find me. Hold on to that. For that they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord. They would none of my counsel. They despised all my reproof. Therefore shall they eat of the fruit of their own way, and be filled with their own devices. What goes around comes around. For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whosoever hearketh unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. My son, if thou shalt receive my words, and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thy ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. For their feet run to evil. Incline thy ear to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge, and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures. So King Solomon, he always references knowledge as her. It's a she. You hear that, ladies? I've said this before. Knowledge is spoken as a she, okay? Wisdom. You didn't know that. You spend a lot of time, oh, the Bible hates women. Blah, blah, blah. No. This is our job to show you these things. If thou seekest her as silver, and searchest her as her hidden treasures. For her as hid treasures. You see, just bang. Proverbs 31 and 10, I think it is. Who shall find the virtuous woman? For her price is worth more than rubies. If thou seekest her for silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, thou shalt understand the fear of the Lord, and find the knowledge of God. For the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. He layeth up wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth the paths of judgment, and preserveth the ways of his saints. Then shalt thou understand righteousness, and judgment, and equity. Yeah, every good path. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee. To deliver thee from thy way of evil, to deliver thee from thy way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil, and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked, and they froward in their paths. to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and they froward in their paths, to deliver me froward in their paths. You see, we see that a lot, especially with the younger generation now. Especially in the younger generation. That's why we've got a lot to answer for, us who were born in the 80s and the 90s. We got a lot to answer for, because they're kind of, that's our children now. That's our nieces and nephews. And for those who were born in the 90s, you're like their role models. You're like, and even people in their 20s now, those who were born in the turn of the millennium, late 90s, early 2000s, they're looking up to you now, and they're the children of our generation as well. We got a lot to answer for, because they looking up and they're seeing this, and you see a lot of this behavior. Who lead the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked, whose ways are crooked and they froward in their paths. To deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words, which forsaketh the guide of her youth, and forgetteth the covenant of her God. For her house inclineth unto death, and her paths unto the dead. None that go unto her return again. Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. Oh man, like, you just should have read this 20 years ago. None that goeth unto her return again, neither take thy hold of the path of life, that thou mayest walk in the way of good men, and keep the paths of the righteous. For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it, but the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it. That thou mayest walk in the way of good men, and keepeth the paths of the righteous. For the upright shall dwell in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. Righteous men, righteous men, righteous men. As I keep been saying. So that's a bit of Proverbs 1 and a bit of Proverbs 2. Okay. Wisdom of Solomon. Love righteousness, you rulers of the earth. Think of the Lord in goodness, and seek him with sincerity of heart. Because he is found by those who do not put him to the test. He is found by those who do not put him to the test. So everyone who wants to see something from God to prove that God exists, you ain't gonna see nothing. Stop complaining that God hasn't showed himself, and he hasn't done this and he hasn't done that for you. You ain't gonna see nothing, because it's about faith, it's about trust, it's about patience, obedience, and genuinely seeking with all your heart. This is something which has been finalized in my walk this year. Because he is found by those who do not put him to the test, and manifests himself to those who do not distrust him. For perverse thoughts separate people from God. And when his power is tested, it exposes the foolish. Because wisdom will not enter a deceitful soul or dwell in a body enslaved to sin. Here we go. Remember I told you, hold that thought. Perverse thoughts are separate. Perverse thoughts separate from God. And when his power is tested, it exposes the foolish. Because wisdom will not enter a deceitful soul or dwell in the body of enslaved to sin. For a holy and disciplined spirit will flee from deceit and will leave foolish thoughts behind, and will be ashamed at the approach of unrighteousness. For wisdom is a kindly spirit, but will not free blasphemers from the guilt of their words. Because the Father is witness to the innermost feelings, and a true observer of their hearts, and a hearer of their tongues. Observer of the heart and hearer of the tongues. Because the Spirit of the Lord has filled the world, and that which holds all things together knows what is said. Therefore those who utter unrighteous things will not escape notice, and justice, when it punishes, will not pass them by. For iniquity will be made into the counsel of the ungodly, and a report of their words will come to the Father, to convict them of their lawless deeds. Because a jealous ear hears all things, and the sound of grumbling does not go unheard. A jealous ear hears all things. Ugh. Like you just know that, people. Like you just know that. This is one of the signs, right? This is one of the signs when you may not be able to trust somebody, or when somebody's after you, somebody doesn't like you, somebody's jealous of you. You could just be having a normal conversation, and they could be doing something else. They should be doing something else. But they're hovering around listening. Now, sometimes it could just be somebody quite meek, or somebody who actually is interested in this because there's something in their life is happening. They want to hear this conversation, but maybe they don't know you too well to just jump in the conversation and join in. But they're hovering. Oh, I'm just going to have a little drink here at the water machine at work. Oh, I'm just making a coffee. Oh, I'm just doing this in the background. And you're having a conversation, like, especially if it's something quite personal about in your own life. Or especially about something that you don't like. People are just hovering. And they're listening. Just be aware of the people around you when you're having certain conversations. And it's none of somebody's business. But they're hovering, just constantly listening. Always within earshot. You could be in the lunchroom at work, just having conversation with random people from the whole building. And there's that person over there. Either somebody who doesn't like you, or somebody who pretends to like you, but they're the best friend of an enemy. And that's also a rope-a-dope opportunity. You could just let out some kind of information. Little bit of information. Just to test somebody. I've explained this before. And then just see if it comes back around to you. And then you find out, you know what, that person I can't trust, because I remember I mentioned that. For an example, I mentioned that I don't like people like whistling around me when I'm busy doing something. I'm trying to concentrate. I don't like people whistling. Whistling makes me lose my concentration. You remember you said it in front of that person, and then the person you're not getting along with is purposely within the next few days they're purposely doing it. You're just getting on with your work, and then they're like purposely in the background, and then bang, thank you for showing me your horns, thank you for showing me your horns, I got you, you've been rope-a-doped. And then you see that person, and you're like, now I know I can't trust you, because you went and told that person what I was talking about. You were eavesdropping on that conversation. Sometimes you have to weed people out. You have to weed these people out, because sometimes you really need to know who you can and cannot trust. Because it's nice to be personal with people. It's nice to talk to people genuinely from the heart. It's nice to be able to trust people, you know, and have genuine friendship. Even if it's not like on all sorts of levels, as man to man, as colleague to colleague. It could be through countrymen, Londoners, like all different kind of things. You need to know you have a genuine connection with someone, and somebody's not just feeding off you, and you got to find out who's a snake straight away, man. There's one thing I've learned over these past few years. These snakes, you got to find them early, and they're usually always they're very personal with you, but they're very secretive about themselves, or when they are trying to speak about themselves, it sounds made up, or they contradict themselves in a later conversation. Totally, not like slightly, totally. And then you're like, oh, these people are making it up. Okay, back on point, sorry. Because the jealous ear hears all things, and the sound of grumbling does not go unheard. Beware of useless grumbling, and keep your tongue from slander, because no secret word is without result, and a lying mouth destroys the soul. I've been hooked into that once in the workplace. I've been hooked into that, where somebody said to me, oh, this girl, blah, 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 she's completely useless, blah, 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 blah. Really going in on this girl, yeah. She was a nice girl, but she wasn't really good at the job. But you know me, I'm the kind of person who thinks, okay, this person's new, they need time, they need direction, they need a proper coaching. And I'm not seeing that from the people who should be doing it. And I was new at this time, and just to go along with somebody, I was like, oh, I'm glad you said it, because I had already changed, and I was realizing that I'm not going to do these things anymore. But he was like, it was just me and him, and he was doing a one-to-one thing, and I just went along with it. And then he used that against me. He used that against me, and I was like, at the end of the day, I should have seen that coming, and I was so gutted with myself because I fell right into that trap. Even though I didn't feel the same way as he was talking about. Like I said, I feel that I notice when somebody's not good at doing something, it's because they haven't been shown. Once you've shown someone, once someone's had the training, then you can start criticizing. Then you can come down on people. But I was just so gutted that I fell into that trap, because And then it all occurred to me that these dudes were looking to trap me because I was fed up with their bravado and just their nonsense. Like, I'd grown out of this nonsense. They were talking like Snoop Dogg, like, basically. Yeah, what's up, nephew? Da, 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 da. And these are like European dudes. And I'm like, when I say European dudes, I mean literally European dudes, like born in other countries in Europe, like not born in well, yeah, literally European dudes. I won't say what country because it doesn't really matter. But they were talking like Snoop Dogg slang, and they thought I'd be into it as well. And I was just like, and they were really childish, and I just weren't bothered. And I could see that they were slightly offended because, oh, he's not going to be one of us. He's not one of us. Right, I've gone off track so much. And I should have seen it coming, basically. I should have seen it coming. So beware of useless grumbling, keeping your tongue from slander, because no secret word is without result, and a lying mouth destroys the soul. Do not invite death by the error of your life, or bring on destruction by the works of your hands. Integrity, integrity. Do not invite death by the error of your life, or bring on destruction by the works of your hands. Integrity. What are you doing when nobody's looking, you know? How many times have you seen people caught out because they didn't know somebody was looking? They didn't know there was a hidden camera. She didn't see the nanny cam. She didn't notice the nanny cam. And she's doing horrific things, really unspeakable things. And now you're caught out. Because God did not make death, as he does not delight in death of the living. For he created all things so that they might exist. The generative forces of the world are wholesome, and there is no destructive poison in them, and the dominion of Hades is not on earth. For righteousness is immortal. Righteousness is immortal. Doesn't that just slot straight in? But the ungodly, by their own words and deeds, summoned death. Considering him a friend, they pined away and made a covenant with him, because they are fit to belong in his company. That's Song Solomon 1. Just a little snippet of wisdom there. I'm gonna like to I'm gonna stay on this subject for a while now because, like I said, like these kind of things changed me, and it convicts you. It makes you take a long look at yourself, and you notice yourselves in these verses. You're like, ah, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Oh, that's me. Please read these things for yourself. I'm going to say it again. There's nothing like running your own eyeballs over these words, because that's where it really hits you. When you're alone, you're in the moment, you're just soaking it up. Just like you could be reading the Bible, reading the story, like you could be reading the Bible story, like John 13, 5 and 10. You're in the moment. You've been reading the whole thing. John 13, 5 to 9. And then you just burst out laughing because you're right in the moment, and it's just hilarious. Because you're right in the moment. You're right there. You're living it. You're in the robes. You're in their sandals. So when you're reading stuff like this, when you're reading the Proverbs, when you're reading the wisdom of Solomon, when you're reading Sirach, it really hits you hard. And it makes sense. Once you've lived a bit, it makes sense. And then you realize how important it is for fathers to be reading these things to their sons, to their young sons, or encouraging their young sons to read this. Sitting down on a Sabbath, teenage boys, right, let's sit down and go through this. Let's break this down. This is what we're supposed to be doing all along. Don't like me, like this word. Subscribe to the Most High Yah, Yahuwah, and follow the teachings and the wisdom of Christ. Yahuwah, Yahusha HaMashiach. Kingdom come, the motherland, let's go home. Let's go home. In here,